friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jenna. I love to crochet plushies, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I am so excited for today's video. This is not a typical video that I do, but with the release of a new yarn from Premier Yarns, I just had to hop on and review it for you guys. So many of you have already asked me on Instagram to do like a live yarn review, so I was like, okay, I need to sit down and film this video. And in case you haven't heard, Premier Yarns just came out with their newest yarn from the Parfait collection. And if you guys know me, I love Parfait Chunky. That is the yarn I use for almost every project, and the majority of my yarn wall is from the Parfait collection. So when I heard about Parfait Plush, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be game-changing. Also, disclaimer, this video is not sponsored by Premier. They did send me these two skeins of yarn like months ago to try out and have kind of like a sneak peek, but they are not paying me to make this video. This is my real honest review, and honestly, I have not tried the yarn yet, so I wanted to do it like together with you guys. Also, don't mind me. I literally just got out of the shower, but I was like, I need to sit down and film this for you guys. Today is July 26th, so the yarn just dropped yesterday, July 25th. So I'm really excited to make this video. Okay, I think I'm going to make a loaf cat because I haven't made a loaf cat since last summer, and I'm really excited. I have never made a loaf cat out of Parfait Chunky, so now I'm going to make a Parfait Chunky version and then one out of Parfait Plush, and we can compare it. Now, let's go over the specifics of Parfait Plush. So the thing that I love most about Parfait Chunky is that they offer so many different colors in it. You truly have a wide range of colors, and I feel like that's pretty rare. Part of the reasons why I started using Parfait Chunky in the first place is because of so many colors and the fact that it's pretty much always in stock, whereas with Michael, Sweet Snuggles, Chenille Home, it really was hard to find it in stores, and even shopping online, like the stock was very limited. So with Parfait Plush, they actually came out with so many colors. I will insert a picture here of all the colors, but it is amazing to me how many colors they're offering in Parfait Plush. And right off the bat, feeling it, it does feel slightly different than Parfait Chunky. I have a skein of Parfait Chunky here, and this is the color Acorn. But as you can see with Parfait Chunky, the yarn itself, it is a bit thinner, and Parfait Chunky kind of has the reputation of producing a lot of fluffies when you crochet with it. Whereas with Parfait Plush, I believe they are trying to say that this is a non-shedding yarn. And right off the bat, when I'm like feeling it and kind of pulling at it, it doesn't produce fluffies from what I can see, and it honestly feels a bit sturdier than Parfait Chunky. So I'm going to be really curious to actually try it out. We're going to crochet with it, I'm going to frog with it, we'll sew with it so we can really see how it does. And in terms of the specs, it is a size 6, super bulky, and each skein is actually pretty big. It comes with 200 grams, which is equivalent to 174 yards, and it looks like this. So I will say this is kind of like a nice size skein. I feel like Bernat Blanket has like 300 gram skeins, this has 200, and Parfait Chunky I believe has 100. Let me go grab a fresh skein of Parfait Chunky actually. Yep, 100 grams. So right off the bat, the skein is way bigger than what you're used to if you are used to shopping Parfait Chunky. I honestly didn't place an order yet. I wanted to see what this yarn was like myself and kind of test it out before placing an order. So I'm going to use the gray for today. And before I get into making the loaf cat, I have a bunch of different yarn, and you guys asked me to compare the sizes to different yarns, so I am going to do that. I was not kidding you guys. Here are all the different yarns that I want to compare Parfait Plush with. So we will start first off with like the chenille category. So I'm going to go ahead and drop some of these. Okay, so let me open up Parfait Plush. So here is the actual thickness. It's a gorgeous color. Actually, wait, let me see what color this is called. Okay, this is the color Pale Gray. And what I love about Premier Yarns is that you can get the same colors across the different yarn lines. So Pale Gray, I know, is also offered in Parfait Chunky, so that's nice. I noticed they have some brand new, like, exclusive colors just for Parfait Plush, but I do like that they carried over popular colors like Pale Gray, Cotton Candy, etc. But okay, let's first test out what it looks like compared to Parfait Chunky. Like I mentioned earlier, Parfait Chunky, you get half as much yarn per skein. This is the color Tangerine, but let me go ahead and grab a strand. And from what I've read on Premier's website, Parfait Plush is kind of like a love child between Parfait Chunky and Parfait XL. So it should technically be between these two skeins. So here is the side by side. Parfait Chunky is definitely way thinner. In terms of feel, I will say Parfait Plush does feel more sturdy. Parfait Chunky is known to have the fluffies. So this is just the direct side by side. And Parfait Chunky is actually classified as a size 6 as well, but it's interesting to see that, you know, the size 6 can vary a lot, and this is a prime example. And I will put Parfait Plush to the test because I will be making 2 different loaf cats, so we'll see that later on. But now for Parfait XL. This is the yarn that I always go to for my jumbo size plushies. This is a size 7, and this is in the color Sage. Parfait XL also has some crossover with Parfait Plush in terms of colors. Like, I use Parfait XL in the color Rust for my sunflower turtles, and Parfait Plush has the color Rust as well. So let's open up Parfait XL. Now, if you're familiar with like Sweet Snuggles and Chenille Home from Michaels, that is a very similar yarn to Parfait XL. They are a size 7, so they are pretty thick. These are perfect for jumbo plushies. And I will say Parfait XL does a good job of not shedding too much. It just sheds when I sew or when I frog. So it'll be interesting to see how Parfait Plush does when I do like the frog test and the sewing test. But let's do a side by side now in terms of the thickness. So it looks like Parfait XL is still bigger, which makes sense considering it's size 7, but Parfait Plush isn't that much smaller. And now let me grab Parfait Chunky and we will do a complete side by side. So yes, Parfait Chunky is the thinnest, then Parfait Plush, and then Parfait XL. So Parfait Plush truly is like the perfect like middle child between the two. And I really like that because I feel like sometimes when you're working with Parfait Chunky, you're like, I kind of want something thicker, but I don't want to size up completely to a size 7. So it's awesome that they offer this Parfait Plush option now. Okay, moving on to another chenille yarn. This is a popular yarn by Michaels, and this is the Sweet Snuggles Lite. This is basically the same thing as Chenille Home Slim. They are, let me see, a size 6. That makes sense. You get 250 grams per skein and 218 yards. So this is slightly bigger and offers slightly more yarn than Parfait Plush. Now, I'm very curious to see how it compares directly. And I feel like when Parfait Plush came out, everyone was kind of like, oh, is this going to be the same thing as Chenille Home Slim, Sweet Snuggles Slim? So luckily I have a skein on hand. I can't open this because I'm actually giving the skein away, because I don't really use Sweet Snuggles Lite, Sweet Snuggles in general, Chenille Home Slim, just because of the availability issues. I just can never find what I need in store or online, so that's why I mainly buy from Premier. But okay, let's do a side by side. Okay, so on screen, I feel like you can kind of see that the Sweet Snuggles Lite, it is a bit thinner, ever so slightly thinner though. I will say it is thicker than Parfait Chunky, but the Parfait Plush still wins out in terms of thickness. So I feel like if you wanted to interchange Parfait Plush and Sweet Snuggles Slim, you could, but there would be a little bit of a difference between like the thickness. And let me grab Parfait Chunky real quick so we can do another side by side. Okay, so you can see that Parfait Chunky is slimmer than Sweet Snuggles Lite, but Sweet Snuggles Lite is a little slimmer than Parfait Plush. They feel just about the same though, and I feel like this colorway, this is specifically what color is this? This is called Barely Pink. I will say this is an older skein of Sweet Snuggles Lite. I know they just redid the entire collection, so maybe the newer Sweet Snuggles Lite is a bit thicker, but for what I have right here, I will say this color is very similar to Premier Parfait's Cotton Candy, so it makes me wonder if the Cotton Candy color is going to be the same in Parfait Plush. I feel like you could intermix them if you really needed to. I feel like I wouldn't recommend that just because it is a bit different in terms of the width, but overall they are very similar. Okay, next up we have Honey Bunny from Hobbii. I feel like a lot of you use Hobbii yarn. I only have a skein of Honey Bunny on hand, and I'm also giving this away, so I can't really like pull out a lot of the yarn, but let me show you guys. I will say this is a very similar comparison to Parfait Chunky. Honey Bunny yarn by Hobbii is very, very similar to Parfait Chunky. I have intermixed them before, so kind of the same thing. This is going to be way slimmer than Parfait Plush. So if you're looking for something a little bigger than Parfait Chunky and Honey Bunny, I definitely recommend Parfait Plush if you don't want to size up all the way to a size 7. Okay, next up we have Premier Basic. This is the like blanket yarn equivalent from Premier. Bernat blanket is very similar to this, and luckily I do have a skein. I saw a few people wondering how this compares to Parfait Plush. So let me show you guys. I will say Basic is thinner in terms of just like feeling it, and on screen you can see that it is a bit thinner. Parfait Plush wins out again in terms of thickness. I think it is just like the perfect medium size slash in between Parfait Chunky and XL. It is probably at like the top of the size 6 yarns in terms of like the actual like thickness. I will say Basic is great because it does not shed at all, even when you frog, even when you sew. So we'll see how Parfait Plush holds up. But yeah, this is the side-by-side between Basic and Plush. And with Basic, since it is a blanket yarn, it has like this like rougher, I don't want to say rougher, but it has a different material than Plush. Plush is your typical chenille yarn, so it's a bit softer, a bit more buttery, a bit more shiny. Whereas the Basic is more matte, and it definitely has like that rougher, classic blanket yarn texture. Next up, I have a skein of ZaddyCrafts. ZaddyCrafts, again, I think is also a size 6. Yeah, size 6. So let's compare it. I think ZaddyCrafts is very similar to Basic, even though this is considered like a chenille. I would consider this more a blanket yarn, honestly, now comparing it to Parfait Plush right here side by side. ZaddyCrafts is definitely thinner, and ZaddyCrafts does a great job of not shedding as well when you frog and when you sew. So we'll see how Parfait Plush does, but just off the bat, ZaddyCrafts is definitely thinner. Next up, we have Bernat blanket. I have a skein of the tweed collection. Let's see. Now, I know Bernat blanket, this is technically a size 6 as well, and I'm surprised by that because this is pretty thick. And the Bernat blanket skeins are huge. You get, what, 300 grams and over 220 yards per skein. So that is pretty good. I love how big these skeins are, but let's see what it looks like side by side. I'm also giving this yarn away, so I don't want to unravel it, but here we go. Now, again, just feeling the yarn, I will say Bernat blanket is thinner. Parfait Plush wins out again, but let me show you Parfait XL. Yeah, so blanket yarn is up here. It's the thinnest out of these three. Parfait Plush, Parfait XL. And again, I feel like in terms of textures, the blanket yarn is very different than Parfait Plush because blanket yarn is blanket yarn. It definitely has a more blankety feel. I don't know any way else to describe it, whereas Parfait Plush is your typical like chenille. I feel like if you wanted to, maybe you could intermix these, but again, it would just be slightly varying when it comes to the different like widths. So I don't know how that would do in terms of like the pattern ratio. It might mess it up a little, but I would be curious to see if someone like tries to intermix it. Okay, next we have Cozy Cub. This is a brand new yarn at Michael's. This was originally Joanne. I think it's, what is it? I don't know. Baby bear. I never tried this yarn, actually. I was like so late to the game, and then Joanne went out of business, so I never got to try it. But Michael's luckily took over a lot of the Joanne Big Twist line, so I was able to snag some at my Michael's. This is also a size 6. Yeah. And you get 200 grams, 241 yards. So this is slightly bigger than the Parfait Plush. I don't know what even to describe this. I would say this feels more like ZaddyCrafts, honestly. It's like a mix between chenille and blanket. I will say right off the bat, I can tell that this is going to be very durable. Like it won't fray, it won't produce fluffies when frogging or sewing. But let's see how this compares to Parfait Plush. Yeah, so this is much thinner. Baby bear, or what is this, Cozy Cub. So Cozy Cub is way thinner than Parfait Plush. Actually, on screen though now, I can see how it resembles a chenille, so maybe Cozy Cub is considered a chenille yarn, but it's just way thinner. I would say Cozy Cub is very similar to Parfait Chunky, and let's do a comparison. Yeah, it's very similar to Parfait Chunky. I'd honestly say it's a little bit thicker than Parfait Chunky, but you could probably get away with intermixing these. And then lastly, I have the Posh Purl from Michael's. This is another big twist item that Michael's took over from Joanne. This used to just be Purl. I don't know what it was called in Big Twist, but now this is called Posh Purl. This is feeling very thin. Okay, it's a size 5, so that makes sense. So this will be the thinnest out of all of the yarns that I've gone over in this review. And okay, it's called like a polyester yarn, so that definitely makes sense to me. It's not a chenille, but it's not a blanket yarn, and it's very thin. I feel like I'm very eager to try this though. I've heard great things about this yarn, but just a quick side by side. As you can see, being a size 5 yarn, it is way thinner than Parfait Plush. But okay, that is the last yarn that I had to do a direct comparison with. So hopefully that helped you visualize. I know a lot of you kind of requested that I show you the different yarns in person and how it compares to Parfait Plush. So hopefully that was helpful. I am now going to try and make a loaf cat out of Parfait Plush and use it for the first time. I cheated. I already started my loaf cat in the Parfait Chunky, and oh my gosh, I'm making a calico. And I also just got these sinker eyes. They're 18mm. I typically don't have sinker eyes this small, but I'm really excited to use these in my loaf cat. I can't believe this is the first loaf cat that I've made in Parfait Chunky. It's so surprising to me, but I've always used blanket yarn. So this is a size 5, and it looks like he's going to turn out a pretty good size, honestly. Like the blanket yarn one turns out pretty big, and I use a size 6mm, so I feel like this is a cute little size for a loaf cat, and hopefully these eyes look really cute because I've never used sinker eyes for loaf cats either. I've only just used like the plain black safety eyes, so we're doing a lot of firsts. But okay, I'm gonna quickly pivot and I'm going to start on my loaf cat in Parfait Plush. Let me see what it recommends. It recommends a 9mm hook. That is way too big if you're using amigurumi. The rule of thumb with amigurumi is always to size like down 1 or 2 hook sizes than what's recommended on the label. So since it recommends a 9, I might try like a 6, just because I do use a 6mm when working with Bernat blanket yarn. And since Bernat blanket yarn is a bit thinner than Parfait Plush, but not too much thinner, I feel like I could get away with a 6. I feel like a 7 might be a little bit too big. Like I want the loaf cat to have pretty tight stitches. So I'm gonna try out a 6 and we'll see how it goes. Let me grab my hook and let me pull up the pattern. The loaf cat pattern is by Annie Caraway Art, the queen of the loaf cat. I feel like the loaf cat is still going strong all these years later. I guess it really just blew up last year, so it hasn't been that long, but it's still going strong. So for the Parfait Chunky one, I'm doing the spotted loaf cat, but since I only have one color really of Parfait Plush, I'm just gonna do a plain gray kitty. And okay, let's get started. This is like my live review. It's not technically live because I'm not live on YouTube, but you guys get the point. Like this is like real life reaction. Right off the bat, it feels so buttery soft, a classic from Premier Yarns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will always be a Parfait girly. I feel like Parfait XL, Parfait Chunky, and now Parfait Plush. Like it is just the perfect like chenille yarn in my opinion. Yes, it does shed. Yes, there are fluffies. Yes, sometimes it frays, but I feel like you just can't beat the softness of the chenille yarn. LOL, totally did this wrong. My mind automatically just does 6 single crochet in a magic ring, but I forgot the loaf cat, it has 8. But wait, actually I just like frogged that magic ring and no fluffies, so that's a good sign. And let's see, because sometimes when I close my magic ring it gets stuck. Let's see what it looks like when I try to close my magic ring. So far so good, very smooth, very buttery soft. No fraying yet, and I feel like the 6mm hook is a good size for it. I feel like, yeah, if I sized up to 7, it would have been too big. Also, I cannot multitask. Let me frog that again. But again, I frogged it and no fluffies. So honestly, it is passing the frog test. Okay, so I just wanted to stop and show you guys what it's looking like. Absolutely love it. I love how tight the stitches are. This is your typical Parfait look. So honestly, I am a fan of Parfait Plush. I'm trying to think though. I feel like I do mainly use either Parfait Chunky for my regular size plushies and Parfait XL for my like jumbo plushies. So I don't know like what I would use Parfait Plush for, if we're being honest. Like I feel like I've already established my like yarn that I use, but I feel like if you are looking for an in-between yarn from like Parfait Chunky and Parfait XL, this is the perfect in-between. And if you're a huge fan of like Sweet Snuggles Slim and Chenille Home Slim from Michaels and you want more colors, this is definitely a great option as well. Like I said earlier, the thing that I love most about Premier is that they offer so many amazing colors. They offer the same color across the different yarn lines, and they always seem to have availability. I know the popular colors are sometimes out of stock, but they do a great job of restocking. And yeah, I feel like if I ever need to place an order, I can get what I need. Whereas with Michaels and some of the other yarn websites, the availability is really limited. So I would say this is a great staple yarn if you're looking for something to replace either Sweet Snuggle Slim, Chenille Home Lite, or if you're looking to supplement it and have a wider range of colors. But okay, I'm gonna zone out and put you guys on time lapse because I obviously cannot multitask, and I will show you the final Loaf cat side by side. Coming back on because I made pretty good progress with the Loaf cat, and I just wanted to show you guys the side-by-side comparison because both Loaf cats are kind of in the same spot. So as you can see, Parfait Plush definitely is way bigger, but keep in mind I am using a size 6 hook, whereas this Parfait Chunky Loaf cat is with a size 5. But I think it is such a cute size for the Parfait Plush version. Like, this is kind of the same size as Bernat blanket Loaf cats. I'm trying to think. Oh, I do have one. Let me show you guys. Okay, actually I lied. This is Big Twist Plush. So it is slightly bigger than Bernat blanket, but here is the comparison. And Parfait Plush is definitely a bit smaller than Big Twist / Bernat blanket. So I think it really is a good in-between yarn, especially if you want something a little bigger than Parfait Chunky, but not too big. In terms of using this yarn, it is so buttery soft. I did have to frog a lot. Actually, I had to start this Loaf cat all over again. I don't know if you guys saw from the time lapse. It did really well when I frogged. There weren't any fluffies, which is a good sign. I did have some fraying, but honestly, it was because I frogged it probably like 3 different times. So I just cut off and used a new strand. But when I created my magic ring, I was able to pull it through no problem, which is great because I know a lot of us struggle with pulling through and closing up the magic ring. Sometimes the yarn gets a little bit too frictiony. So I haven't had any problems with that. We will see how sewing goes. I feel like sewing is the real test because that is when a lot of the fluffies come into play. But yeah, I have like no complaints so far. I really think I will go ahead and invest in some colors. It's kind of like irrational of me to do that, but I want to have more of Parfait Plush in stock just in case I do need it for a one-off project. Like I mentioned earlier, I will probably just stick to my Parfait Chunky, but it is nice to have some of this in stock. I'm super excited to attach the eyes. I think I'm gonna try to use sinker eyes with this one too, just because I've only ever used the black safety eyes, and I feel like the sinker eyes would add such a cute little personality. I've seen a lot of people use sinker eyes for the Loaf cat, so let me actually pause and do that right now with you guys. Okay, my eye collection is definitely out of control at the moment, but I settled on these ones. These are from my friend Melissa, Bora Bee Babies, and she just sent me these, so I'm really excited to use them. The iridescence is so pretty. Do you guys see that? I picked these because I think it would go really well with the gray, but okay, let's go put them in. And of course, I am using my sinker eye jig from Lush Luxe Loops. This has been so helpful. I no longer struggle with putting in eyes, so if you're looking for a clamp that actually works, highly recommend this one. This can be found on Lush Luxe Loops website. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so cute! Ah, here we are. Oh my gosh, they look so cute. They ended up going more to the side, but I love it. I love it so much. Okay, now for our baby Parfait Chunky version. I don't know which one I want to use. I think maybe the light blue, like this one. I think this would be really cute. Yes. Oh my gosh, these are so cute. And low key, since I do have so many eyes, I kind of forgot who sent me these, so I will have it on the screen. And I am so sorry for not knowing off the top of my head. My eye collection has gotten so bad. That's how you know it's bad, when you don't even know what shop these eyes come from. But these are so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just make sure they are secure. Stop. Are you guys kidding me? Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. Okay, I will never use the plain black safety eyes again with the Loaf cats. These sinker eyes make them so much cuter. It gives them so much more personality. And this is a lot more cat-like because cats actually do have really gorgeous eye colors in real life. Okay, let's finish up these Loaf cats. Okay, actually before I finish up this cat, I thought it would be cool if we did the like Fray / frog test like on screen. I realize you guys probably didn't see it earlier during the time lapse, so let's do it. I'm going to frog. And as you can see, no fluffies, nothing's coming out, and also the yarn is still intact. I would not say it is frayed or having any sign of like having fluffies getting pulled out. I feel like we've all been there when we frog something and then the yarn completely deteriorates and you get down to that really thin, like string-like texture, and it's just awful at that point. So I haven't seen that yet, and we just did the frogging. I frogged earlier and I didn't see that. So hopefully what Premier said about this being like a non-fraying yarn is true. And honestly, that's really nice because with Parfait Chunky and Parfait XL, you do get that sometimes. I will say the skeins have been better. There was a period of time where it was pretty rocky, but I've seen a lot of improvement, especially over these past few months in the newer skeins. So it definitely passed that test. We will see how it does when I sew up everything. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys on screen. Oh my gosh, you guys. So I just cinched up the bottom of the Loaf cat, and I will say I have a few fluffies that came off when I was cinching, but this is way less than what I'm used to with Parfait Chunky and Parfait XL at this point. So I will say Parfait Plush has shed significantly less. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. Stop. Look at the eyes. Look at the eyes. Okay, I just need to make the tail real quick, and then Mr. Parfait Plush Loaf Cat will be done, and then we can do Parfait Chunky, and we'll do a side-by-side. I'm so obsessed. This yarn is so soft. I kind of like this better than Sweet Snuggles Lite, honestly. Granted, I don't use Sweet Snuggles Lite, like, ever. I've used it, like, a few times a few years ago, but I will say this feels a lot more sturdy. Like, the yarn itself, it just feels, like, thicker, even though they are very similar widths and thicknesses. It just feels like more sturdy, if that makes sense. Okay, just got done with the tail, so let's do the sewing test. Now, I just pulled this yarn through and there is a little baby fuzzy. Wait, why isn't the camera focusing? A little baby fuzzy that came out, but that's it, which is really, really good, honestly. Now let's sew on the tail. I feel like I never really stuffed the tail, but I probably should. Let me get it a little bit of stuffing. This is making me so happy, you guys. I have not made a loaf cat in a hot second, and I forgot how fun it is to make these little kitties. I will have this one on my shop for adoption if anyone wants to adopt her. She is like the perfect little gray baby. Okay, the loaf cat is officially done. The tail is all sewn on. This is what he's looking like. Such a loaf, you guys, such a loaf. This cat reminds me of that cat from the movie Secret Life of Pets, because I believe that cat is all gray as well. I don't know his name. I did watch that movie though, it's very cute. So with the sewing fluffy test, I would rate it like 8 out of 10. 10 being no fluffies at all, 1 being the yarn completely deteriorated. So I will say there were a few fluffies, nothing compared to Parfait Chunky and Parfait XL, but it's not like Bernat blanket level where you don't have any fluffies. Overall, I'm extremely happy with how Parfait Plush worked up, and I definitely recommend using a 6mm hook. I love how tight the stitches are, and it wasn't like to the point where I felt uncomfortable crocheting with it. Like, you know how sometimes you use a hook so small with the yarn kind of thick and the stitches get really tight and really hard to work with? This wasn't the case. I'd say 6mm is the sweet spot. Of course, it'll vary person to person, but that is what I found success with. Maybe in the future I can test out a 7mm, but for now I'm very happy with the 6. Such a cutie! Okay, let me finish up the Parfait Chunky version and we will do a little side-by-side. Oh my gosh, you guys, I just got done the loaf cat. This is my favorite loaf cat that I've ever made, and I made a lot of loaf cats last year. Oh, Shay's waking up from her nap, she's coming over, but I am so in love with how the sinker eyes look with the loaf cat. I am hooked. Also, the Parfait Chunky size is so cute. It is not too small but not too big. Okay, enough yapping, let me show you. Oh my goodness, look at her, you guys. Her eyes are perfect. Also, I made a little calico baby and I am so in love with how she turned out. This is actually acorn. I was going to use the tangerine color, but I thought it was a little too orange, so the acorn was the perfect color. I am so in love. I'm so obsessed. I don't even want to sell her because she's just so cute, and I'm glad I still have a lot more 18mm eyes because I will be making a a lot more Loaf cats now. These are so cute, and I found out whose eyes these are. They are by Macy. She runs Rainbow Designs. I'll have it linked down below, but they are gorgeous. They are so gorgeous, you guys. Okay, now for the whole point of this video, let's compare the different Loaf cat sizes. I will say this Parfait Chunky didn't shed as much because, like I said earlier, like the skeins have been improving in quality, so that was really nice. But let me grab the Parfait Plush Loaf cat. And here is the size comparison. So as you can see, 5mm Parfait Chunky turned out much smaller, but they are still both really cute sizes. Like, I feel like either size would sell really well. It just depends on, I guess, what yarn you have and like what size you do want to offer. These are so gorgeous. In the past, I did sell my Loaf cats for $25, and to be honest, I think I was underpricing myself a bit. For this size, I'd probably do $30, and for this baby size I'd probably do $25. I've seen other sellers offer it at those prices, and I feel like that's much more aligned to like the work and supplies that went into it. So yeah, oh my goodness. And then real quick, let me take the Big Twist plush yarn. This is very similar to my Bernat blanket Loaf cats, and honestly I'm surprised that like the Bernat blanket slash Big Twist cat is very similar in size to Big, I can't even talk. There's so many different yarns that I'm talking about. I'm surprised this one's so similar in size to Parfait Plush, because look at that. They really aren't that much different. This one's a little bit bigger, but yeah, I would say it's very, very similar. And it's crazy because like, look at the difference. The eyes totally make the Loaf cat so much cuter. This one's still cute though, don't get me wrong. But all right, I think this wraps up the video. I am giving Parfait Plush a 10 out of 10. Like, this is my honest opinion. Now that I've made a plushie out of it, now that I've used this, I feel like it really is great quality. I think it's the perfect size if you want to have something in between Parfait Chunky and Parfait XL. I feel like the #1 question from you guys is, how does it compare to Chenille Home Slim and Sweet Snuggles Lite? And it is very, very similar. I think it is a great substitute if you want more colors, if you want more availability. I'm super excited to place my own order with Premiere. I cannot wait to get some more colors and make more Loaf cats. I think I'm entering my Loaf cat era again, especially now that I unlocked the sinker eye look. It's so cute. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any more questions related to Parfait Plush, definitely leave them down below. I will try my best to answer them. But I hope you have a great rest of your day. Catch you in my next video. Bye!